All right, so we're going to be going over loans and investments. And basically, loans and investments, we're going to be doing that with recursion and with recursive sequences. We're basically just going to figure out how we do things that aren't annual interest. We're going to figure out how to do things that are like monthly interest or that are quarterly interest, or basically something like that. So let's take a look at this let's take a look at this first example here. So u of 0, and are we all set to start here? Awesome. Okay. And in this section, you're basically always going to be starting with u of 0 now. It's very, very rarely going to ever change outside of that, and that's just because we're bringing it down to months. So if you start with the year 2009, you're going to be tempted to go to 2015 and say, that's my time, when it's actually counting in months now. So basically, you're basically 99 times out of 100, you're going to start with u sub 0. So u sub 0 is equal to 2,000, and then we've got u sub n is equal to u sub n minus 1 multiplied by, and we'll say 1 plus 0.08. So right now this is a loan that is growing, and the thing that I threw at you is just kind of a last second piece there. I didn't love it because it wasn't on any of the review stuff, but then all of a sudden it appeared on the test, and so that's why I felt like I needed to at least give you something of it. So that's why I threw this on at the beginning of class before the test yesterday. So if this is our loan here that is growing, that we took out $2,000. This is what's called the principal. So this is our starting value, and then it's growing at 8% interest there. But then we're going to make some payments on this loan because we want loans to be going to 0. That's our goal, because we don't want to have loans out there that we're accruing interest in and continuing to pay and pay and pay. So let's say that we're going to say minus $200. So basically what that just means is that we are subtracting, or we're paying $200, and at this point it's yearly because we have got nothing new. So nothing new here that looks anything different there, except for maybe this last piece here of adding in the payment amount. But all that we're going to be doing now is and this is another reason why we wanted to keep these separated, is that now we're going to be adding something underneath here that'll make that be a monthly payment. So let's jump ahead and just kind of describe a few of these pieces here. So jumping ahead to, let's go to this slide here. It should be the yellow one that kind of labels everything as part of your piece there. So our first piece here, we're always starting with that u sub 0. And then this first amount here is going to be referred to as the principal. That's going to be like your first initial value, your first investment, if it's an investment, or the amount of money that you borrowed from somebody. And then our typical, this is still the same. This will always be the same. U of n is equal to u of n minus 1. And then from here, we've got that same look that we're doing. And all that we're doing is we're adding something in here. In this frequency, that's just telling us how often it's being compounded, how often the interest is being compounded. So in all of our examples we've seen so far, like this guy, it's saying that it's got an annual interest rate, but that it's compounded monthly. So that means that basically every month it's basically adding in that interest rate to the original principal amount from the previous one. Yes?
So it's just breaking up this 0.9 into the months of the year?
More or less, yes. Yep. So going back here to this yellow guy here again. So the only thing that we're really changing is we're just stepping it up a notch inside of this here, and then the other new piece that we're going to add is an investment. So investments, you want your money to be working for you. You want that to be growing. You want it to be increasing. So investments, that's where we're going to be adding, and then payments on a loan is most commonly, that's where we're going to be subtracting. So if I give you a formula and I don't tell you if it's a loan or if it's an investment, you should be able to tell right away based on, is there a plus sign? If there's a plus sign, then it's an investment. and I should specify a plus sign right here, then it's an investment. If it's a negative, or if it's a subtracting right there, then it's going to be a payment, so that would make it a loan. All right. So knowing that, let's jump over to this slide here. So what do you think we would divide by that number that happens inside of that 1 plus? Let's use our 0.08 there again. What number do you think we would divide by if it's semi-annually? Semi-annually. 2. Yes. 2, because it's twice a year. You wouldn't divide by 6. Nope, because that would be more comparable to basically say every other month or something like that. So then what do you think you would do for quarterly then? 4, yep. And so on and so forth. Monthly. Weekly. 52, and daily. 365, and generally it's used as 365, not including like leap years and different pieces like that. So 365 in the real world. I don't have any payments that are daily. I can't think of a payment that is weekly outside of like your paycheck that comes in. But that's not really having interest or anything to do with something like that. Most of my bills come monthly. So this is going to be by far your most common one that you'll see in our examples will be the monthly. So you'll most commonly be then dividing this number by 12 to break it down into a monthly piece there. And then our second piece, when we're adding or subtracting over here that we for sure want to specify between is if the question says you pay $2,000 yearly on this monthly interest, you have to be sure and break that $2,000 into what monthly payments would be on that. Because based off our recursive formula here, or sequence, rule, formula or rule, basically this is now saying per month, what am I doing? So if I say that I'm making a monthly payment of $2,000, that loan is going to be wiped out really fast. So just make sure that if it does specify something like that, that it's your knowing that, okay, my interest is doing this at this rate. Make sure that my payments are also doing that at that rate. That's something that might catch up on the test. So lots of talking there. Let's do an example of it. So let's jump back up to this guy right here. Why doesn't everybody take a second, work on this first problem here, and see what you can get for these first. Let's do the first 3, and then we'll skip 4 because this is something tomorrow we're going to introduce you to a new app on your graphing calculator that allow you to more quickly find things like that. I'm thinking. Yes, and yes. So let's just do our first 3 pieces here. And everybody take a second and do that, and I'm going to pause the video here. Bring it back in. So real quick, let's just break down this first one. The annual, what does annual mean? Yearly, every year. So the annual interest rate is 7.9. How, if I wanted to divide 7, and if you wanted it as a decimal, it'd be something like that. How would I take 7.9 if I know that that's what's going to happen in 1 year, and I'm going to break that down into a monthly thing? What would I have to divide 7.9 by? 12. And that would give me my monthly interest rate then. Because this is my full year rate is 7.9, and then I want to figure out what's my monthly interest rate. So I'm just taking my full year one and I'm dividing it down by 12, just the same way that you do with basically with lots of other things. If it's like, hey, I have 6 pizzas and I want to divide them between 4 people, you would do 6 pizzas divided by 4 people. So it's that same concept. So so this is what the monthly interest rate was, and that's okay if you didn't get that, because it's the first time through. You know, it's not always going to click right away. So don't worry about that. So the second piece here is, what is the first month's interest on $22,000? What would be the first month's interest on $22,000? Does anybody have any ideas on how we could go about solving this guy? Nothing yet? That's okay. So let's do this. So we're going to set up our equation here. So we got u sub 1 is equal to u sub 1 minus 1. That's always what we're starting with. And we're multiplying by 1. And then our rate is growing at 7.9%. And this is looking for months. So we want to be sure to include that monthly rate there. So we'd be adding 0.079 divided by 12. And then in this piece, we can actually leave off how much we are paying per month, which I actually don't. 1 plus, because this is a loan. So the bank has loaned you this amount of money, and then every month that basically you don't pay it back, they are charging you interest, because the bank's whole goal is to make money, right? And so they wouldn't just give you a big sum of money and say, okay, we'll pay us back whenever you want to, and that's that. You know, their goal is to use that money to make money. So you would take this and you punch that into your calculator, and you'd see what would be your basically, once I set up that u of 0 is equal to 22,000, and then you'd say that n is greater than or equal to 1, and then what do we get for when n is equal to 1? Because we're looking for our first month. So let's punch that into our calculator here. So u of 0, and then we're going to say u of n minus 1 multiplied by, this will be 1 plus 0.079, divide that by 12. So if you were in this one here, you would want it to be in this full decimal form, because otherwise that's saying like 7.9 when this is supposed to be 7.9%. So basically moving that decimal. So basically when it gets plugged in here, you want it to be in decimal form, not in percent form. All right? And then our starting value, 22,000. And then let's grab our table set, make sure that that's all okay, starting at 0. And then let's grab our table here, figure out what's going on there. So it looks like our first month, we'd be up to about 22,145, we'll say, if we round that off. So how much would be the first month's interest if this number here, if 22,000 is our principal, that's our first, and now we owe this much money? $145. Yep, that is correct. So it would be $145 because we're just taking our principal and we're taking out or we are subtracting out our principal from that full total there. Okay. So last piece here, which actually this 145 is supposed to go right up here. So our last piece here, if you pay $300 a month, what will be the remaining value or the remaining balance after the first month? Well, we just found out that our first month was that $22,145. And now we're paying $300 in that first month. So all we're doing is we're just taking off $300 from that to get the new balance. So yeah, if you were to put this into your equation, it would just go right here, minus 300. But since it wasn't telling us what that first month's payment was, that's why I didn't put it into that equation first. Does that make sense?
Yep. Thank you.
Yes. All right. So I think that we're kind of wading our way through this. So let's jump to another example here. Let's see here. Let's jump over to this guy right here. No, I don't like that example. Let's do this example. We'll make one up. So we're going to say that the principal loan in this one, we're going to make it $10,000. So our first principal loan is going to be $10,000, and they're giving us an annual interest rate of, we'll call it 7.9%. Let's actually not do 7.9 because we just did that. So let's say that they give it to us at 5.9%. So the annual interest rate is 5.9%, and we're going to ask those three questions again. We're going to say one, what is your what is the first month's interest? So first month's interest. Let's call it the first month's interest rate, because that was the actual first question there. So what's the first month's interest rate? Second piece will be what's the dollar value? So how much interest did you accrue in your first month? I'll get to your question here in just a second. Dollar on first month's interest. And let's just start with just those two pieces there. So we're doing the exact same thing that we did with the last one, but we're just doing just the first two instead of telling us what the payment might be. So why don't you work on that? Yes. This is one that I just made up. Yep. This is just a made up one here. Yes. What's that? It is it. Here, so in this case, yes. In some of the examples that we did, where it's where it doesn't have like a payment attached to it, but in our examples here for loans and investments, it should always be a plus in the parentheses, because in both cases, that interest is growing. So, yes. Oh, here. Let's take a look at our second piece here then. What is the first month's interest? $49. And how'd you get that, Aubrey? Sure, yeah.
So I had U of n minus 1 and then I looked at my table.
Mm-hmm. And the first one was up to 10,049 then?
Yep.
And then you just subtracted that from your principal, which is 10,000. Yes, that is exactly correct. Nice work. All right. Let's do another example of these because I still think that we're a little bit fishy on these. So let's keep moving forward with this guy here. Fishy. Yes. Yeah. Yep. All right. So here's going to be our next one. Our principal that we're borrowing is going to be $21,000. And then our annual, there's two N's in there, annual interest rate is going to be, let's make it 3.8%. We're going to find what our monthly interest rate is. And we're also going to find if I paid, this is going to be a step up here. So if I make a monthly payment of, we'll say, $300. So this would be a monthly payment of $300. $300. When would it get to zero? When would this loan be done? When does your loan? When would you pay off your loan? When would you pay off your loan? When would you pay off your loan? Yep. So your monthly payment is $300. So let's take a look at this one here quick. And we're gonna need to fly here a little bit because I want to get you your test back too. So our monthly. So what is our monthly interest rate on this one? What's our monthly interest rate? What's that? 0.038. Now is this our monthly rate? Okay. So then who wants to help him out? What would be the monthly interest rate? Yes, sir. 0.32%. Okay. Yep. 0.00. So 0.32%. Because all we're doing is we're taking this rate here, which is 3.8, and we're dividing that by the number of months, which is 12, and then this is getting us our monthly interest rate. Perfect. And then Aubrey, you had mentioned when is this payment down to zero? When have you paid off this loan?
80.
So it took so 80 months. So how long would 80 months be? 6.6 years. That sounds right to me. And that's 3.8% on $21,000. So when you guys are looking at colleges and they're saying, hey, it's $21,000 a year, and so now it's 4 years. This is where loans start to get interesting when you start to think about some of these things. Right. Well, and that's at paying $300 a month. Right now, I pay about $400 a month. So this is a little bit of a low number, but you could certainly pay more than $400 a month. But I don't know what you, but I hate seeing $400 a month to leave my bank account to go pay for this stuff. So it's actually my wife's loans. So. But I fully embrace them. I fully embrace them because we're a team. So, all right. So yeah, no, that's fact. No, I'm serious about that. So yeah. So 6.6 years, and 0.6 is of course based out of 12. So it's not actually 0.6, but it's 6.5 years. Is basically what that comes down to. Yep. So I'm going to throw you one more example that's going to slightly change this now. Basically, everything is going to stay the same. But what happens if instead of paying on these loans and doing this investing, what happens when you get out of that debt and you want to start to invest to make money of your own, to make your money work for you? That's the second piece of this lesson. So this piece here, let's say that our principal investment is we're going to invest $3,000. So we're going to invest $3,000 into a mutual fund or something like that. That gives us an interest rate, an annual interest rate of. We'll say that this one gives us 7%. 7% interest rate. So this is the annual interest rate, and since this is a investment, what's the only thing that changes when we do an investment versus doing a loan? What's the only thing that changes? Yes. You add it. So all that we're doing is we're just making that a plus after all this stuff here of our U of n minus 1s and whatnot. So U of n is equal to U of n minus 1. So I'm just going to do this one here just just so we see it, multiplied by 1, and we're still adding because they're giving us this interest rate on top of our $3,000 we originally invested, and the interest rate, and let's say that monthly we're going to add $200 in per month into this investment. So if we're getting 7% interest rate monthly and we're adding $200 in, that would be what that would look like. So real quick, why doesn't everybody put this into their calculator? So u of 0 is equal to 3,000, and then n is greater than or equal to 1. Everybody put this into their calculator and see what you get when you get to, let's say, 3 years from now. What do you get when you get 3 years from now? And then once you get that, put that into Pear Deck, and let's see what you get there. So year 3. So how many months would year 3 be? 36. Year 3, so 36 months. So what's our value of this original $3,000 at 36 months?
I did it in 6. I did it in 2000 yesterday.
All right, guys, we should be putting this in to Pear Deck, and I'm going to try to end this lesson in about 2 minutes here, so that we can get time to take a look at our tests. Looks like I got a couple of answers in here.
That's months? Are you kidding?
Oh, mine.
Sorry. Thanks for the help,
So this is a fairly common thing. Be sure that you're looking at 36. You're not looking at 3. Because 3, we're used to working in years, but we're working in months. So be sure to be looking at 36. Our starting value is at $3,000. All right, I'll give you guys another 15 seconds to input your stuff in into Pear Deck there.
Oh, yeah, that's what I got. I don't know. All of mine said 201.
All right, so I'm going to lock this, and let's take a look at what we got for our answers here. So it looks like most people are sitting here around about 11,684, and then a couple lower and a couple higher. So let's just plug this in here quick, see what this looks like. So we're starting at 0, and we're getting an interest rate of 7% here. Don't do this. Delete that one. Okay, so 12 months, and then we're also going to add $200 a month. And we're starting with $3,000. It is a struggle on the old smart board here. Okay, so let's take a look here. So actually, do we remember how to quickly find that? Just go U is equal to 36 months. So we come with about $11,000. So our $3,000 is turned into 11. That's not totally accurate because we did spend $200 times by 36 months. But so in total, we put in about 10 grand, and we got out about 11,600. So we got decently close to about $1,500 or $2,000 over 3 years of this investment. That's just at 7%. You can find investments that depending on what it does and what the market does, you can see anything, and like the highest one that I've ever heard of from somebody who was like 18% return on investment. But most time you're sitting more in like the 10 to 12 range. If you're going with like a mutual fund or a money market or something like that. So.
How come you put more money in? Like, why wouldn't you just leave that 2,000 and let it grow?
You could, you could. It's just not going to grow as fast. So, so all that's going to do is just basically kind of stunt that down some. So if we delete this off of here, and we go down, or let's not do that. So second U, then we go 36 months here. So we end up with, making about $700 then. So that's a difference. Well, I mean, if you can add, then you're increasing the money that is compounding on interest, and so that's why that's doing that. So yes, that's everything from today. Let's quick look at your test here.